Joppa Road. Now, there's a lot of differences in how they play this live versus the studio recording by Ween, of course, this song. And I'm going to go over those. First step of figuring out what the differences are being pitch. Now, it's about half step up. You can very easily emulate this song with a capo on the first fret, and it'll sound a lot more like the album. It'll sound 1/2 step higher, about this. And I'm going to be mainly focusing on how they play it live, but I will cover how they do things. I'll mainly focusing on the studio, but I'll cover what they do live. Because it's really quite simple. It's actually much, much simpler than what they do. And it's got a kind of different feel to it. It's more slowed down and whatnot. So, we're in C, right? So, what he's doing on the album, I think it's... he's basically doing it's just a C add 9. Classic chord that everyone kind of knows. Just your C with your... there, right? Just a C add 9. But I hear this note in there, that higher octave C. I hear it in there somewhere a little bit. But on the album, if you listen close, he's definitely just playing a C add 9 there. But I still hear that note somewhere there. So what I like to do, it just sounds pretty good to me, is like the first strum. I do just a normal C major, open, and then after that, I just add that note on the third of the B string. Right, so that's the first chord. And then it's the same chord, it's just adding this higher note here. So it's just your A through B strings are all playing the same thing. He just moves positions up here so you can hit this note, this high G there on the third of the high E. And on that chord, he really emphasizes the higher strings. Like you mostly hear in the top like 3 or 4 strings there. So that's that part. It's just sort of like verse part A is what I would call that, because it's sort of a slight variation of it. I guess you would call this like the turnaround or whatever. So I guess essentially that'd be like a D minor 7, right? But he's got this D-shaped triad here. Triad, whatever. Yeah, it's whatever. So you got the D shape, 5th fret on G and high E, and 6th fret on the B, and you got your open D there. There's not really an open A, so I kind of mute that with my thumb like this. And he just moves this one, your first finger back 1 fret, but everything else is the same. So, and just repeats that. Right, and then the only other part really is just, I think he's just strumming a normal C major here. I don't hear the add 9 really, so it's just a C major. And it's an A minor. Now, you could do an A minor 7 if you want, but honestly, I think it's a straight A minor, and honestly, on the album, all you can really hear is just the open A string, and it's kind of hit. He really plucks it kind of hard, so I kind of like mute the E string with my thumb, and like it honestly just sounds like he's hitting the open A string there. But you know, live you want to fill out the sound a little bit more, so I would just like sort of like hit that note, the open A string, twice while kind of muting everything around it, or at least just emphasizing the lower strings again while muting the low E. And then just lightly strum on top, right? You're just holding this A minor chord. But to be more accurate on the album, it would probably be like honestly, I don't hear much else during that part other than that A string on the guitar. And that's the thing, is like the mix on the album is very bass heavy. It's mostly driven by the bass, which is cool. And there's lots of flurrying sort of like cymbally drum hits and whatnot, which like sounds drum machine. But it's really nice soundscape. That's basically all the rhythm parts. Now for what they do live, it's very simplified. So you got this C major 7 shape. He bars it here. So this is just you're barring on the 3rd fret from the A string down, and then you got your, in case you don't know this major 7 shape, it's really nice. you just put your third finger fifth and your pinky fifth on the D and B strings, and your middle finger on the G string fourth fret, right? So, and remember you're barring there, so, and the tempo's much slower, right? So it's more staccato like that, much more low energy strumming. Well, about the same energy strumming, honestly. It's just a lot slower tempo, so. And he just stays on that chord. He doesn't do any, oh, you know, technically that was the same chord too. He just swapped out the voicing there, but you know, so this is C major 7. And he just stays on that. And then for this part, he basically just does a D minor. Sometimes you'll see him in, like, earlier in the song, he'll just do a D minor, open E minor, and he'll do that little thing that you've seen him done on lots of other songs when he does D minor. Just doing that little, right, on the highest string. Right? So it's like that. And then later on in the song, he'll do this same thing, but it's D minor 7 that he's voiced up here, like the bar shape. He does not lower this note, though. So that'd be like the major 6 or whatever, that chord. And he does this thing, which you see him do a lot, too, in certain songs. I'm mostly thinking, like, Israel. So you just grab it up there. The highest string, going up to the 8th fret, and just occasionally sort of plucking and then pulling off, right? Right? It's a great little trick. And that's basically it. And then there's the verse B, right? Instead of just vibing on this. He does that, but he starts off and then a straight A minor. I don't hear a 7th in there. I think it's just an A minor he does. Right, so that's the live version of the rhythm he does. Now, the solo, you can play this opening lick in 2 different places mainly, and I'm going to show him both positionings. But the one that I think he's doing, by the way, he at least does this solo on a Spanish guitar, classical guitar. I think it's Spanish guitar. And just a side note, I would like to know whether or not Dean actually plays this solo, because it sounds like he could, but there's a couple tendencies in there playing wise and melodically that do sound like something he would do, particularly when he rakes into that. It sounds like that, but there's a couple things just melodically that he does that doesn't really sound like characteristic of him, especially during this time, but I could be wrong. I have a feeling it might be Stefan Said, but the guy who did some sort of noodling in the background of Buenas Tardes, Amigo. But he's not credited on this song, I don't think. Maybe he's credited on the album as just Spanish guitar, but I didn't bother to look up, so I apologize. This could very well just be Diener, and I don't know what I'm talking about, so apologies there. Anyway, so it's on a Spanish, like, nylon string guitar or whatever. So that opening sort of part of the solo is, I believe, played in that position. But you could also play it up here, but I'll teach it here first. So we're up here in this position. Right, so rake into that, or frap into that, as Diener would say. 3rd note of the E string, high E string. Right, so then 1, open, 3rd of the B, then open, 1, open. And you're plucking all those. And then just pluck the 1st note and then pull off 3rd to 1st to open, then 2nd of the G string, then pluck these, open, 1, 3, then he plucks and kind of quickly slides up to the 5th, then third, first, pluck all this, and then a lot of people think he does this. Oh, sorry. A lot of people think he does this. Like he pulls off on that note. But he doesn't. He just goes, he hammers on there, plucks from the open of the first fret. And then there's a tiny little pot. He just goes. So, hammer on, and then pluck, pull off, open, first. Right, so a little bit slower. And I'll play it up to this position here, so we're up here. Probably the way I prefer to play it. Well, I don't know. I could go either way about it. So I figured, you know, the sequencing and the rhythm's the same. I'll just show the positions, right? So, right, we're up here on the B string on the 8th fret. Then we go on the G string here. Right, so. And then it would be more accurate to sort of change your position here and go like this on the G string so you can sort of pull these off better. Right, so, and then D string, then, right, so, Alright, so this second part, you're going to rake into that note on the E string, 8th fret. Then pluck these two. B string, 10, and then 8. Then 7 on the high E string. He's going to descend like that, so. Alright, on the B string. Right, so just this pattern, this descending pattern. Right, so once you get to this note, you don't really do the same pattern anymore, so it's... You can climb down there and you got that G string note, 7th of the G string, and then 5th fret of the B string, pluck, pull off, then pluck on the G string, and then little position shift here, sort of, and that feel is really important to, right, to get here. So after. Right, so pluck there on the G string, 5th to 4th, then D string, 7th, then you're going to hit that 4th, and then he's going to hit this 5 times, this note, the C note on the 5th fret of the G. And he's going to pluck the 7th, then slide up after he plucks it the 2nd time. So, right, so... like that. So slide up on the 9th fret of the G, and then on the B string here. So that's just we'll pluck, hammer on, pull off from the 6th to the 8th, back to the 6th, then slide back down to the 5th, and then he's going to end it. A lot of people rake into this note, which is totally fine. I find myself doing that a lot, but on the record, he just sort of plucks it, and then he mutes it, and then It's a quick little bend up. It's sort of, I think it's sort of in between a half bend and a full half step and a full step bend. So that's just 13 on the B, 15 on the B, bend up there, and quick little bend, and then you stop the phrase. Right? So then here, I believe this is a pull off here. You pluck it and then pull off. B string, 13 to 10. And then here, same thing on the G string, 12 to 9. The timing's a little just, it's not really, but just in terms of the attack, I think he's pulling off there. But it kind of sounds like a pluck, but I think it's just a really aggressive kind of pull off. So especially with your pinky like I try to do. That can be kind of tough to get that volume-wise. So nothing wrong with just going, just plucking it if you want. But this note here, this last sequence here, this is all on the G string. 7, 9, pluck those first 3, and then 7, 9, then pluck 7, slide down to 5, sustain it, and then he's going to pluck these 5 to 7 to 5, and then mute. Right, so not. That sounds nice, but if you want to be accurate to the record, it's right. So a bit more staccato, I guess. And then same pattern, just on the 4 to 5 to 4. Then so 2, 4, 2, open. Then finally 5, hammer on, then pluck 5. Great song, and I hope you have fun learning it. Thank you.